family, and we love you all. So, at the base and the heart of midlife crisis, not gonna lie, it's Mikey G and Maddie Mintz. And why it is because over 30 years ago, I met this crazy SOB at the 4th grade bus stop. I swear to you, when I first laid eyes on this dude, he was perpendicular to the ground. What's up, folks? Mikey G here, baby. It is Tuesday. We actually are like 6 minutes past the hour. This is the most on time we've been in a while, hence why there's not many people here right now. But yeah, I know you all trickle in. Maddie, how you doing, buddy? You are getting close to a monumental date, which is, speaking of our esteemed guests, is at FSU. You moving to Florida yourself, brother.
Yep. You know all those last minute things, man. It was a good weekend. I like to say it this way, some people I'm saying some goodbyes and I'm saying some farewells, and there's a difference. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The people who some of the people it's like, see ya, and that'll be that. And others it's just, it's just a farewell. I mean, it's not that far. We're just a plane ticket away.
Right.
But yeah, doing that kind of stuff, man. It's been kind of surreal. Just because, I've been here for a long time, man. But I'm super pumped, man. I'm so excited. Life is good. No major complaints at all. I felt kind of lazy this week because I stopped doing the training last week.
Mm-hmm.
So, I worked in a gym 5 days a week, and
Yeah.
it's weird, like not being at the gym all the time.
Yep.
So that, there's that. But the trade-off has been, I feel like I've gotten a tremendous amount of sleep, and I forgot what that feels like.
Hell yeah,
So
dog.
it's gonna go away
And
once I get to Florida, but it's been nice to have a little bit of a week of like breathing room.
I'm just excited for the flexibility we'll have to collaborate on midlife stuff because it is a
Oh,
real
it's
thorn
gonna
in
be
the
amazing.
side when you have to be in the gym busy
Yeah,
training clients
with
the
clients,
entire
yeah.
day. Whereas, me with a desk job, I can hop on a call here, there. The flexibility is going to be amazing. So I'm pretty pumped for that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it many times. I mean, just there are a lot of opportunities as we've been building a network in this space,
Hmm.
that we're going to be able to really, really utilize effectively,
Yeah.
right? Because it's just been so hard to coordinate schedules. One, you're on one coast, I'm on the other. So that between the time difference
Yeah.
and then the work schedule,
Yeah.
and quite frankly, imagine if you actually were like going in the office still.
Dude,
I mean,
not,
there would just be a
and
lot of things that'd be impossible. And
oh my
so,
God, we would be a half a year behind what we are currently at right now,
yeah, at
if
least.
not
So,
more.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all working out the way it needs to, man. I'm excited. It's
Hell
good.
yeah, man. Oh, well,
How,
I'm
how about you,
excited
man?
too. Well, I'm doing good, bro. I mean, cat's out of the bag, I think, at this point. Wife is pregnant. This is pretty freaking excited. We've been going through a lot of things to try to get here. So I'm excited. Finally, I think taking a deep breath and kind of realizing that I'm probably going to be a dad here soon, which is that's going to be a life. You want to talk about a time suck? That's going to drastically change the midlife productivity as well.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to
Yeah.
figure that out. But I'm good, man. I'm excited. Wife is well. Wife is healthy. San Diego is cold as shit. It was 55
What?
today, cloudy, and it rained pretty much all day. So I don't know
Man,
what the hell is going on. The
could you
world
just
might be ending.
imagine being in a place where cold as shit is defined as 55 degrees?
It's cold, bro. I mean,
Like,
it's so
so
weird.
because here's the difference. We had a nice sunshiny day. It was also 55 degrees, and I felt like it was heaven,
Yeah.
just because it's been like 0 degrees. You know what I mean? And so,
Hey, man.
it's just, how they say it. It's like it's the grass is greener on the other. It's just you you get used to what you're used to.
Dude, listen, I pay a hefty tax and premium to live here. It better be 75 and sunny every damn day.
That is true. You do pay a hefty tax. That is true. So yeah,
Uh,
no doubt there.
but don't worry, man. I'm coming back to the East Coast Saturday, and it's going to be a sweet high 45, low 24. Looking forward to that one.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I'm so bummed. It's gonna be like missing each other.
I know.
Totally just missing each other.
I know.
So you owe me a flight to. I'm saying you owe me a flight down to Tampa.
100%. We're getting to Tampa, and then you're coming out to LA and San Diego, and we're going to have a blast.
Can't wait. Cannot wait.
All right. Well, good little chat. Welcome to the chat, OGs. I see you in there. No one's really typing yet, but I know you're lurking. It is probably going to be a lower viewership considering today is Valentine's Day. And I did do a good morning tweet this morning, and there were a lot of people saying they were spending time with friends and family, which is understandable. But hey, man, when you're grinding with midlife, we're making content, we're making a little bit of a sacrifice tonight. And we're going to do this, and we're going to hang out with our boy Hanzo. And with that being said, let me introduce you to Hanzo. I got a fun little facts here with our man. First, dude played a lot of sports. He is a little younger from our previous guest, but from 6 to 14, not only did he play sports, highly competitive sport player. At 16, this is what always blows my mind, man. We have these people on that are just like, guess what? Well, I was not thinking about doing at 16, starting a business. Well, Hanzo freaking did. Not only did he start a business, he started a pressure washing business, which was the last thing I wanted to do at 16. I remember my dad telling me, yo, you got to go pressure wash the back deck. And I'm like, F you, this sucks. Hanzo just picked it up and started a business doing it. So props to him. He's currently at Florida State studying management and information studies. And he's part of our good old Bridge 3 network where we're a part of. And he does some advising and sales stuff for him. But that is just the regular resume deets. We do have a fun fact, and that is that this man has broke his wrist 4 freaking times. And I like, Hanzo, I love your follow-up to this is after the 4th time, that's when I realized life might not be fair all the time. Welcome to the show, buddy. How you doing?
Thank you. You guys give me a lot of kudos. I'm not sure if I deserve it, but I'll take them. Congrats on having a child. That's a huge deal.
Thanks,
Definitely
man.
something I look forward to in my life.
Yes.
And I hope I'm well. I've never gotten checked, but I pray I am. And congrats on moving to Florida.
Well,
I've never been out of
Nice.
Florida, but that means I've never wanted to move out of Florida.
oh,
So I love the weather. I love the people. I love the environment. I cannot complain. Every city I've been to, Tampa, Orlando, Tallahassee, Miami, Ocala, has been nice weather. There's Publixes here, which might be the biggest benefit. There's just
I
a lot of
do
fun
like
things
some
to do.
Publix. Publix is real nice.
I've heard of
Yes,
such a
sir.
thing. I've heard of such a thing.
And they have some fried chicken that's no joke. Mike.
Do
Yes,
they?
yes, they do.
It's
Pub
low
subs.
key.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, not even maybe low key, but where I'm from, everyone gets those. They're sold out almost every time I go, so I got to get my hands on them.
Dude, that's fantastic. I love it. Well, man, welcome to the show. We're going to get right into it, and that is the world famous midlife crisis question. And I can't wait to hear this fun journey and story. How'd you get the seat you're sitting in today, buddy? Give us Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3. To reiterate, Star Wars episode 1 is your childhood. 2 is going to be you starting that sweet ass pressure washing business in your high school, early college career. And then 3 will be finding Web3, starting gas guzzlers and beyond, man. Can't wait to hear it.
Yeah, so let me start with something interesting. So the first memory I ever have, they're 2 very violent memories. So
Whoa.
one, I broke my nose, I believe, and I got a concussion because I was watching a hurricane show, and I wrapped myself in a towel leaving the bathroom, and I acted as if I was a hurricane. I tripped and fell and hit my head. And then the second thing for my Star Wars Episode 1 is my best friend tripped at a camp and hit his head in a manhole. And his head was bleeding and it was horrific. But that will be the most gruesome part of the story. So my childhood was, I would say I had a very good childhood. I come from a middle class family. Both my parents have always pushed me to do things above and beyond the average. They did not want me to compare myself to other people. I was always taught to compare myself to my potential, which is a very well way to parent a child, I believe, because while my friends were saying I only have to get, a B plus, I only have to get an A minus, I was saying, well, my potential is that I can get an A plus in this class. My potential is that I could become a professional soccer player. And, even if it wasn't true, it was something that I was always striving for. And it always led me to, believe I would be something great and do great activities. So I was put into private school my whole life. I started off in middle school. One thing about me is I was always very good at math. I don't know if you guys ever had those math packets, but my dad was the type of dad to make me sit next to him and do, 50 math pages next to him over the summer where there would be algebra, geometry, stuff like that. And my parents pushed me in private school, and then they also pushed me to do advanced classes in private school. And it didn't just stop at school, because as early as my dad could get me in sports, I was in sports. And I had to be professional. I was very professional sports. Got to have your socks on, got to have your shoes on, no messing around. You got to be on point. So he really instilled the idea of, he wanted me to be a winner. He wanted me to be professional. He wanted me to act as an adult. And he wanted to drive home the fact that just because I was of a low age didn't mean I could act like an adult, which I'm very appreciative of that lesson, because he always taught me how to be professional and how to be a man. So from there, the most memories I have in high school or in middle school and elementary school is soccer. I was a very competitive soccer player, and that was really how, you kind of differentiate yourself within those years in life. Everyone's on the same school path. The grades are pretty much the same. No one really has extracurriculars. So I wanted to be a soccer player, and that's what I wanted to put my spare time into. And I quickly realized in life, whatever you put your spare time into is kind of who you become and kind of what people recognize you for. Because people would always say, oh, that's that kid Carter, he plays soccer, So I think I was 13. Yeah, I was 13 years old when I first got into competitive soccer. And it was something called ECNL. I don't know what the acronym stands for, but it was one level below developmental academy. And developmental academy is you're playing, if not with the pros, you're playing on the same fields as them. You go to the same facilities. You go to the same, everything that the pros would do, you would do. You're supposed to be the next round of pros, the next homegrown players. So it was a very competitive environment. The coaches were very on us to practice on our own, to be professional. We were representing the club. I played for Orlando City. Orlando is my hometown. So we were taught to be professional. We were taught to be competitive, and we needed to win because they needed the actual, it's not premiums, but adults will pay their children's sports fees, right? And the more winning teams that they have, the higher they could charge and the better their image and their outlook.
Got it.
So that was one thing they really pressed upon us. And then I also wanted to be a winner. I don't think anyone enjoys losing, And I think that's a very good thing because it keeps the world competitive and it keeps the world moving. So from there,
I like this.
I was a very competitive soccer player, and I actually got cut at the age of 14 or 15.
Ooh.
And it was that was a very, very hard lesson for me because what happened is I moved down to a team in which I was better than almost everyone. And I ended up having to make a decision in which I either continue playing on this team that I was better than everyone and I wasn't having a good time, or, I risk it and I say, okay, I need to start something else that's just as competitive, that can fill my time, and that's not a waste of time. Because I never wanted to be someone that had something going for them and then they stopped and they quit, or had something going for them and then it didn't go their way and they didn't fill it with something else. Because I honestly truly believe that there's no problem with quitting as long as you start something else right away and it's not a half-hearted attempt. If you give it your all and it's just not working, as long as something else that's a byproduct that's beneficial from it, I don't think that's a lost lesson. I think that's a
Okay.
very important thing. So that'll kind of transition me into high school, which is this was the opportunity that I said, okay, I either need to, start making money, which I didn't think of originally, but I just wanted to do another activity that would fill the void in my time.
Mm-hmm.
And the way I did this is I really buckled down in school, and then I realized I had a lot of spare time. So I had extra time, and I said, well, why don't this year I try putting up Christmas lights? And I put out a flyer and I manually walked with my co-founder of Gas Guzzlers now. I manually walked around and put thousands of flyers out at
Yeah.
15, 16 years old around all of Orlando. We'll do your Christmas lights. We'll come mow your lawns. We'll come edge your grass. Whatever you need us to do, we will come do for manual labor. Because manual labor is the lowest entry point thing. No,
Yeah.
all you have to know is press the button, right? If you're pressure washing, all you got to know is press the button, hook up the hose, and it's pretty easy. It's a very
Right.
low barrier to entry for something. So that was the first thing that I did, and it gives you a lot of experience. So we started off doing lights. I would say we made about $1,200, but that $1,200 felt like $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
went to the mall, I bought Air Maxes, and then my mom said, "Save your money." I said, "Okay." And by the end of the next week, it was all gone. So
Exactly.
it was a mistake spending all the money, but I quickly realized that what I need to do is find something to make money so it fills my time. Because I not only was getting the benefit of money, I was interacting with people, I was putting their Christmas
Yeah.
lights up. I got to see these little kids, their face just be elated when they saw the lights, vibrant lights on people's homes, making them look beautiful. It was truly a special experience. So we said, and this is me and my co-founder, we said, okay, what's the next thing that we can do here? And we said, well, why don't we start pressure washing? We have enough money to where we can scrape together, a couple $100 and buy a pressure washer. It's higher margins than lawn care, so we have to land less jobs. We could do one job a day and make $100 a day, say, and we'll be fine. We'll have something to fill our time and we'll be doing something productive. And what happened is we did the same exact method of hanging out flyers around our neighborhood,
Yeah.
and we got one single person. I think we bought 5,000 flyers. We got one single person. But one single person was enough for us to stick to it. So my first pressure washing job I used, it was a 45-degree tip. And if you know anything about pressure washing, you have a surface cleaner and you have a wand. And we wanded the entire driveway for $100. So it's probably 7 hours of work for $100. And people were coming up to us and saying, "Hey, do you know how to pressure wash? Can I get a job?" Stuff like that, because they saw we were young. So
Yeah.
that was something that was really fun, and that really was the spark of pressure washing. And my pressure washing kind of continued through, I would say, up until I went to college, it continued. We had a lead flow that was very nice. We had ads up. We had Instagram reels, anything that you could name for social media marketing. We had all the best equipment. We had surfactants. We had cleaning stuff. You use bleach to clean driveways and stuff like that. And we had actually built up a name and we had built up a reputation that we will clean your house. We will get it done. We are nice young men that go to this private school in the area, and everyone loved us. So that was really my first kind of taste in the business world. And it
Okay.
was very exciting, but I quickly realized at the end of pressure washing, I thought to myself, well, this is not very expandable. If I'm going to be 30 years old, I'm not going to be able to pressure wash if I've been doing it for
Yeah,
15
you're
years.
gonna be hurting at that point. So
Yeah.
real quick, before we get a little far, uh, listen, man, thoroughly impressed. You did some deep dives and some details there, and I wanna before we get deep into the pressure washing, the business side of things, let's rewind a little bit. You said a lot of really interesting things about your father and the mindset he put you through. Anything to add about your mom? What did she do? What did your father do for a living? Interested about what your mom did for a living, and any kind of thoughts or lessons she instilled on you that you kind of still hold true and near and dear to the heart today.
Yes, absolutely. My mom showed me the definition of sacrifice 100%. My mom would come drop me off. In the mornings, I knew that the car they drove was not as nice because I went to a certain school. I knew that the house we were living in was not as nice because they wanted to put clothes on my back that was as nice as possible. She taught me the real definition of sacrifice and the real metric, which is, you provide for your children and you make sure that they do better for you. And she is an accountant. My dad is an environmental scientist, so they're both very knowledgeable in their fields. She's a certified CPA. She helps grow and scale companies. So this is kind of in my blood a little bit, you could say.
Right.
My dad is very intelligent. He loves to read. I wish I was as intelligent as him, but he reads historical fiction all day. He reads Civil War literature. I'll ask him about Napoleon, and he'll say, "Well, isn't it interesting that he did this in this year, and then this month this happened?"
Yeah.
And I'll say, "Dad, I have no clue what you're talking about." But it's very inspiring, which is the basis of why I love them so much and why our relationship was so nice. And
Yeah.
they worked very well together. They were almost like yin and yang. My dad, at times, not always, is very pessimistic, but my mom is very bright.
Yeah.
So it worked very well, and it was very balanced as
That's
the
awesome.
universe could.
Dude, I
Yeah.
love the word. We talk about balance a lot in this
Yeah.
show. Maddie, go ahead. I know you're chomping at the bit to say a couple things.
Yeah, so one of the things I thought was interesting was your dad really instilled a lot about professionalism. Did
Mhm.
he have a background in the military, or was that from like a religious, strict upbringing? Like, where did the professionalism, act like an adult even though you're a kid, where did that come from, do you think?
Okay, so that's a very good question, but this is me deducing this on the spot. And if I had to
Okay.
guess, we'll go all the way back to my grandpa. And my grandpa,
Oh, I like this.
so my dad was born in Detroit, right? The
Hmm.
boom of Henry Ford, the boom of everyone in Detroit working in factories, the average
Yeah.
GDP for the person, the average salary is very high. So booming ecosystem, right? And then we have the huge crash of Detroit, right?
Mm.
That's really where I think my family's grind and my family's professionalism started. So my grandpa ended up packing everything from Detroit because my dad has two siblings, so there's
Hmm.
three children, and then,
Hmm.
or I think it was, yes, there were two children, and then my grandma was pregnant at the time. So my grandpa said, "Guys, we have to go to Florida. We're packing it up and we're moving. We have to take a risk because we have to survive." And what happened is he traveled all the way across the country and they got to Florida, right? And they settled in at Florida. And my grandpa did not have any skills, right? Because there were no machines there, there were no operating assembly lines in Florida. It's not a metropolis like Detroit was. There's not big assembly lines and factory workers, which is what he
Yeah.
was taught. So my grandpa says, "I have to do what I have to do." And he starts going around the country selling pots and pans out of the back of his car and
Wow.
sending the money home so that my family could survive. And this was something that I'm sure impacted my dad a lot because he was then had to be the man of the house. And he was
Hmm.
13 or 14 years old at this time. He had to walk his siblings to school. He had to, make sure they were fed. If there was any extra food, it went to the siblings, it didn't go to him. So he was just it comes from a place of honor. It comes from a place of sacrifice that he has those values. And it comes from a place of there's bigger people than yours. I would agree that me and my dad I would rather suffer than my mother suffer or a loved one I know suffer. So it just
Sure.
comes from a place of honor and sacrifice and just a dignity perspective. You do what's required of you because your happiness is not as important as your family or those loved ones around you. You need to sacrifice for those people. So that's kind of where his professionalism came from. And my grandpa was very hard on my dad, and not in a bad way, in a way of just you need to be a man. You need to go
Yeah.
out in the world and you need to get a job. You need
Yeah.
to go to college. You need to do things like that. Just what should be expected of any child, to become a man, which is a great thing. So
Well,
that's
and
really where
life
the
was hard, right? I mean,
professionalism.
like you
Yeah.
said, I mean, Detroit lost its luster, and when that collapsed, you got to do something, right? You got to grow up fast. And so, like
Mm,
you said, it wasn't that he was being strict just to be strict. It was being strict because that was what it required. So,
absolutely.
uh,
And that's kind of the perfect balance of the universe. Like you said, I'm sure you've heard it. Soft times create hard men, hard
yeah,
times create soft men, and it's kind of cyclical.
yeah,
And it's
it is
true.
100%,
It's just how
100%.
markets work, everything seems to work in tandem. The whole universe seems to be in this everlasting flow and the ebb and tide where it crashes and then pulls
Yeah.
back and then crashes again.
Well, and I mean, yeah, it's seasonal, right? I mean, that's like
Mhm.
we get that once a year we learn that. But my next question is this though, is that people who go through those types of upbringings tend to either want to duplicate it because they think that's the only way to teach, or they tend to do the opposite because they want to avoid it at all costs. And I think it's
Mhm.
interesting because um, you know, you got a little bit of both. You know what I'm saying? I guess my
Mhm.
question is you were pressed to be. It was okay to act like an adult when you were a kid. Were you also pressed that it's okay to be a kid when you're a kid?
Yeah, definitely. It wasn't something where, you can't have any fun, you can't do this, you can't have that. It was just more of a do whatever you want as long as you have your stuff together. As long as you're getting A's in school and you're doing extracurriculars, I don't
That's good.
care who you are because I truly believe it's what you do that defines you and not really, I guess, how you are on a
Sure.
day-to-day basis, if that makes sense. You're a little
Yeah.
quirky. I mean, Elon Musk is a little quirky, but he's trying to send us to Mars. You can't really knock him, you know?
Right.
So it's really your actions that define you, in my opinion, rather than your little quirks or your quote unquote
Sure.
personality. And I think a lot of people don't like that because it's much easier to have a likable personality and be agreeable and be nice to everyone than to get up every morning at 6 a.m., and work
Yeah.
until it's 8 p.m. at night and then repeat the next day. That's not something that's easy.
100%. And when you think of people, some of the greats in history, I think like a Howard Hughes or something like that. You know, it's interesting because when people talked about their personalities, they were somewhat prickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what we remember them for is, like you said, I mean, look what they were able to accomplish, and so
Mm-hmm.
there's probably some wisdom there for
What can you
sure.
leave behind is the question.
Yeah, or leave behind, or can you move the needle a little bit better and make people's
Mm-hmm.
lives better? It doesn't necessarily have to be a legacy, that like I invented something new or radically changed. I think that some people, to be honest, like what your mom did, the concept of sacrifice and just like if you can pour into your kids and provide a better life for them than you had, I mean, in many cases, man, mission accomplished, right? I mean, just if the next generation, if we just keep doing that, we win, right? And so
Yeah.
there's kind of an interesting thought process to that. Yeah, that's really really cool. I think that's interesting because it sounds like that's where some of that kind of competitiveness came from, but it wasn't directed because a lot of people could hear that, and we've all had that. We all know that, like, that dad that pushed somebody too hard, right?
Yeah.
You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
And what was the movie? Was it Friday Night Lights, Mike? Was that the one where was it Tim McGraw that played the dad? Where he
Mm,
like duct taped the football to his son's hands because he fumbled it,
yeah.
and he was
Yeah.
like, "Rah," and just
Yeah,
we
that the
we could of course
superstar quarterback,
recognize,
like that's the dad that was a little over the top, right? Because
yeah,
Yeah.
he's living, unfortunately, vicariously through him.
Yes.
yeah,
Because he
Bingo.
didn't get to, and that's where it goes bad, right? Is these parents are pissed at something and they try to manifest it through his child. Whereas what I'm hearing is your dad was like teaching
exactly.
you principles of
Uh-huh.
success.
Yeah, that's
Um,
cool.
and to follow that up, there is that, you are saying everything right. And like I said, again, from the first day that we talked, thoroughly impressed with your mindset and how you hold yourself. But there are, everything's not perfect. So did you ever go through times of like almost resentment of I want to be a kid, or, frustrations? Like what did that other side of the coin look like? Because everything isn't perfect, right? Any thoughts there?
Yeah, so I would definitely say in elementary to middle school, I wasn't the kind of person to have very close friends, and a lot of them. I had, one good friend, but I was never I was popular, but I was never someone who was, the head of the ship, the captain of the ship that everyone looked at and everyone admired. And that
Right.
was definitely something that was a lot on my mind, especially in middle school before I developed a sense of identity. Because you see some people and they're really popular and everyone wants to talk to them and all the girls like them, right? And the reality is only one person can be that person, right? Only one person can exist at the top. So I was definitely in middle school going through a phase of my life where, especially when I got dropped from soccer, where I did not know who I was. And that was actually the best part of my life because it's kind of like being in an abyss, right? And you don't know whether which direction you take will lead you to the light, but all you need to do is take one step and another step and another step. And I think a lot of people are in those dark spaces and they don't understand that there will never be a clear-cut path. What you're going to have to do, is take a little thinking, relax, understand your situation, and start gradually moving out of it. And for me, that was self-improvement. That was things like, okay, I'm going to go to the dentist. I'm going to go to the dermatologist. I'm going to, make sure I don't smell, stuff like that. I'm going to take more showers,
Right.
I'm going to go to the gym. So I developed a sense of identity, which was I'm always improving. I'm always becoming better than I am. So even if people don't like me now, well, see me in 2 years, see me in 3 years, see me in 10 years, And that was something that really helped me because I was in a little bit of a abyss, a dark place for a while. But it was just taking one step in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other, and then you're finally out of it. You can see the light. You understand it wasn't that serious. But I think that's a very important thing to go through. I think you need to be in a very dark place at some point in life and a very happy place at some point in life so you understand how to deal with all the different scenarios in between.
Oh man, look at you, 19 years old, talking like a freaking philosopher. This is very impressive. Um, yeah, and I mean, dude, you hit the nail on the head, and it's interesting because that seems like a little self-taught. There going through what are darker times, and trust me, man, you're young, you're gonna have a lot more dark times, and that's
Oh,
just how life.
Yes.
That's how
I'm
life
sure they
works.
are not behind me.
No, they're not
And
behind you.
that's the mentality, right? I agree with everything you're saying. My asterisk I would add is don't try to avoid future dark places, or bright places, right?
Hmm.
You live your life and you have to recognize what it is at the time you're at. And then the other thing is that, because by the way, that's when we grow, right? That's a massive part of our development and who we are. So
Hmm.
that's okay. Um, and then the other part I would say is like, okay, so you take L's, you take W's, you're moving forward. um Complacency is another one, right? Is like,
Hmm.
okay, keep changing, keep being willing to get out of the comfort zone. And I think that's something that we just get over time. But yeah, it's the more forward. Let me put it this way. You were saying, like, wait in 2 years. It's, if they don't like me now, wait 2 years. What about then? Wait 2 years. You almost have to go forward with a perspective of, I'm going to do it even if nobody likes me at any point in
Hmm.
time, right? And that's when it changes, right? When it ceases even being a variable in your equation, since you like algebra so much. um, then then it's game on, right? Because
Yeah.
what you're going to do no longer changes. And that's when I find it's funny when you put a line in the sand, so to speak. That seems to be when people gravitate. People notice that. You know what I mean?
Hmm. People do love a carefree person, and it's almost like you can put it in the retrospect of their reality only operates and only revolves around them. They're the center of their universe, right? So other people feel that energy and see that within them, and they say, okay, why does this person love themselves so much, and why does this person not care what I say? And they
Hmm.
go, okay, well, let me take a dip into their pool. Let me see what they're about, right? And that's that really magnetic energy and that charisma, right? Because a lot of charisma is taking losses. A lot of charisma, a lot of people won't like you. A lot of people, a lot of comics people don't like because they have skills that they don't possess and stuff like that. But getting back to that point with the complacency, I have a friend like that, and I think it's better to loathe. I am more hopeful when someone loathes their situation rather than is complacent with it or is in love with it, because I
Yeah.
think that is, like you said, the most dangerous thing. Complacency kills.
Yeah. Nope, I
100%.
agree.
All right, man.
I
Well,
agree.
already riveting, fascinating
I do
conversation.
have one more question about
Maddie,
episode 1.
give it to me.
Uh, Talk about private school, because that's an interesting upbringing, right? And private
Mhm.
school is like a generic term in the same way public school is, right? Like public school in New York is different than public school in Florida, is different than public school in California, but we just say public school. When you say private school, I want to know how you feel. What do you think that influence had on you, right?
Yeah.
And when you say private school, was this like private in the sense like charter? Was this like like a Christian school? Was this like kind of like a college preparatory type school? Give us the background on that, and how do you think that influenced you?
Yeah, so the first I'll give that reasoning as to why you would even choose private school in Florida. And so I actually look at it from two different perspectives. So my parents have always told me the educational infrastructure in Florida is not the best besides college level. And that might have just been in my area. I'm not quite sure because I've never looked for schools. I just went to the schools my parents told me to. But
Sure,
they sent me to college prep schools. And I've always
gotcha.
thought in retrospect, there's no way I could say it's good or it's bad because I've some of my friends went to public schools and they're doing the same exact things I went, and their parents didn't spend, $20,000 a year sending their kids to school, right?
Sure.
Right.
So I think it's one of those things where you can't say for sure. It's either maybe it would have been good, but maybe I would have met someone and I would have been a millionaire by now if I had met someone in public school. It's just something you don't really know. But what I can say about the college prep private schools in Florida is they're competitive. Everyone encourages you to do well, and you feel as if you are a loser if you do not get a good grade, or if you do not keep up with the pack, and if you do not excel, you do not feel like a winner, which is very important because that reflects life. In public
Yeah.
school, I'm not sure if that's the same thing, but the teachers would always tell us the averages. They would always say, if I ever got a bad grade, they would say, okay, hey, come over here. We need to do some tutoring. We're going to contact your parents. We're going to figure out what's wrong. And wrong is a key word because they're not letting it slide. They're not saying that what you're doing is okay, as a lot of kids are told. They're saying there is something wrong with what you're doing because you cannot keep up with the pack. And then on the flip
Boom,
side,
baby. Boom. That
exactly.
is such a
And then
drastic difference compared to the participation ribbon culture that we see a lot throughout just different things in life. So talk a little bit more about that. You think that was a major impact there for you?
I definitely think that was a major impact just because when you go into these private schools, it's people with more money. So naturally, the kids are going to be smarter because the parents are going to have probably more educational value on education rather because they're gone to college, they probably read more books. The more knowledgeable you are, typically the more money you make, and they typically pass that down to their kids. So most of the kids are pretty knowledgeable, right? And they're definitely pushed. Parents are all competing because private schools are small. So all the parents talk, all the parents know all the kids, all the parents know all the parents, and everyone is being compared to each other at all times. So that's a less realistic thing, but it creates something in your head that definitely drives you to do well. Because in the real world, no one you can get away with lying. I could tell someone on the side of the street, "Oh, I own gas guzzlers. I made $4 million this year," and completely lie to them, right? And maybe they'll believe me, right? But in private school, it was never something where those people would believe you, right? Because they knew what was up in you. They saw you studying. They saw you getting the results back. They saw you talking to the teacher. They saw if you were on the honor roll list. They saw if you were on headmaster's list. Everything was transparent. It's almost like there was a blockchain for school, you know?
True, but there was also, and I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, right? But there was also this kind of feeling where you were this pack that was like different than the other everyone else. You know what I mean? And there's kind of this aura like, yeah, even though it might be hyper competitive within your school, when compared to everyone else, I feel like private schools are very good at circling the wagons, if that makes sense. It's
Yes,
kind of like
absolutely.
we are who we are, and they're very proud of that, right? And so my question is because the friends I know that went to private school and are extremely, extremely successful, is they learn very quickly the power in private school, like Ivy League schools, and like by the way, really anything is the network, right?
Mhm.
Is that, you know, suddenly it's like, well, Joey's dad also is some executive in IBM, and Joey's going to private school with Mikey, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
Mikey's looking for a job in IT, so Joey's dad's like, "Oh, I got you." And suddenly Mike's getting the job that like me working in
Mm-hmm.
IT for 10 years is trying to get, and
Mhm.
Mike's just getting it. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
that kind of stuff definitely is I mean, it's a massive difference maker. What are your thoughts on that? Do you see that? Do you think
I
that's
have
a
I have seen that almost verbatim. I have seen some people land some crazy paying jobs for
yeah,
no reason at all, but they had the connection, so fair play to
that's it.
them, because that is how the
Yep.
world works.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
But
is.
yes, I have
It
absolutely
is.
seen that, and I wouldn't describe private school as something as in we at least myself, I never looked down on public school or something like that. I would wake up and think, "Wow, I'm fortunate to just be here and be able
Sure.
to access this school," because I knew my parents, you know, we didn't have money spilling out of our pockets. That was never something that was going on. So
Yeah.
I knew I was just fortunate to be in that situation. But I could see, if your family is sitting on 10, $15 million, which I'm sure some of those families were, how it could be something like, oh, I don't go to public school because my family's at a higher echelon in society. I could
Right.
see that.
Right.
But it was a sense of identity absolutely within the
Yeah.
school. And we were that school. We were those alumni now. We were those students then. We were that school, and that was ingrained into us. It was on our uniform and everything.
Yeah,
Got
absolutely.
it.
And I mean, what you just described, that the tail end is where it can go wrong, right? Because
Mhm.
if you don't stay honest and humble, no matter how much money is in your bank account, that can ultimately bite you in the ass as well.
Mhm.
So good to hear you say that. Maddie, any other questions before we move back to kind of
No.
entrepreneurship world?
No, let's move it forward. I was just really curious about that private school experience, just because I think I've heard it different ways, and I think mostly the positive experience I've heard mimic what you just described, Hanzo.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say if it's a child talking to a parent, as in me who just went and just finished, I would say 12 months ago almost, private school, I would say do not stress about the decision of public versus private, because I truly believe it's more the values instilled in your children which will shape them, because nothing can be stronger than, the internal, assuming that your internal family is super strong, because you get to influence them every single day when they wake up, when they go to bed, what they read, what they listen to, the shows they watch. If they go to school with, a kid, if you're doing a good job parenting and doing what you're supposed to, your child is never going to listen to another kid or a teacher and take their word over, their own father or own mother.
Right.
So I think a lot of parents fall into that trap where it's like, "Oh, my kid is not in private school. I failed." And that's not the reality. Everyone has an equal opportunity no matter where they go with laptops, with the internet. It's not the end of the world if your kid doesn't go to private school. Could actually be the best thing in the world. Some people just don't belong in private school, but and vice versa, There's just different people for different fits, and it's a completely different world for everyone and a completely different perception. So if anyone's a parent listening, that decision, I guarantee you, is not the end all be all, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Hmm,
Beautifully said, my man. So take us
I like
through
that.
um let's get back to the pressure washing, right? So we're
Yeah.
at the point where you feel like it's not scalable, that and then take us into the college thing, because I'm interested about that too, because you learned how to make money before I guess make the decision to go to college, or maybe you already had made the decision, but you've got this entrepreneurship mindset. So there is something there to be said about, like, I don't know, trying to figure out how to make money on your own first before you decide the college thing. Let's kind of go through that phase of your life, and then we'll get to Gas Guzzlers and Web3.
Yeah, so I don't know if you remember during COVID, but COVID was right before I went to college. And this was when Gary V started to become really popular.
Yeah.
And there was, the entrepreneurship trend started to resurge with drop shipping being very popular, social media marketing, stuff like this. and there was a lot of not not I would say there was a lot of content that was not anti-college, but it was a deterrent that made you question if you wanted to go to college. And there were
Right.
people saying, "Oh, well, you come out and you make a degree, or you get a degree rather, and you have no job." There was a lot of mixed signals. There was a lot of misinformation. And there was a lot of people who had never been to college that were talking about college and how bad it was. And I thought at 17-year-old, I said, there's no way I will ever touch a college campus. I'm not applying. I'm not taking the SAT. I am not doing anything. I'm not considering any schools. I'm getting my high school degree. I'm pressure washing the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that's really what I thought. And then I was pretty hard-headed until I applied for college, right? And I realized my parents started saying, you know, okay, that's fine, but as soon as you're out of college or as soon as you don't go to college, you made that choice, you are out of the house because you have now taken on the responsibility of adulthood. And we can pay your rent for a couple months if we're nice enough, or you can save your money from pressure washing, and you must figure out how to be a man because if we let you stay in the house, you will not grow as a person and you will just continue to do basically nothing. And that's
Interesting.
never what they wanted for me. So we didn't have an argument, but it was a debate. My family and I always debate. We don't like to use the term argue because I think argue doesn't get anything done. It's a lot of emotion. Debate is a lot of intelligence and a lot of information processing and sharing and deliberation. And I think it's a much better word for it. So, you know, we had that conversation for probably 6-7 months. And it got worse during the halfway point because do you know Dan Pana?
Mm-mm.
Does anyone know Dan Pana?
Mm-mm.
He does it's like a QLR, I believe it is. And basically what he preaches is like, he says, you need to cut off your loved ones because you need to work really hard. You need to basically have no balance and do all work. And I thought, well, this is a great
Ooh.
idea. Except the problem is my activities didn't demonstrate that. So I was just intaking a ton of content without realizing the consequences of this content.
Mhm.
So I was believing in these ideals without actually seeing how they were reflected into reality.
Mhm.
And eventually my parents got through that phase and I stopped watching that content. And it taught me a lot about content and it taught me a lot about what I'm taking into my mind and my own personal values. So I'm really glad I went through that phase. But we decided I would go to college. So I had to take the SAT. And luckily enough, I got a 1310 on the SAT and I never took it again. And then
Good call. It's
I,
not fun.
what'd you say?
I said good call.
No.
It's not fun.
Yeah, well, I had the Fulbright futures, so I didn't want to take it again. You know, I didn't care. I still was on the fence of going to college.
Yeah.
And then I applied to FSU, I applied to Emory-Riddle, I applied to Michigan, I applied to a ton of different colleges, UF, and I got all my acceptances back, and I realized I wanted to go in-state after visiting, and I wanted to either go to UF or FSU. And UF offered me this thing, which is like a pathway program where you go to a community college for 6 months,
Yeah.
and then you go to UF.
Mm-hmm.
And my parents said, no way, we're not doing that. And I listened to their advice. I said, yeah, that sounds kind of sketchy. It sounds like a liquidity grab pretty much. You're not on
Yeah,
campus.
give us
and
your
you're
money, but don't go here.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Yeah,
We don't have room for you quite yet, but we'll still take
Yeah.
your money.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's exactly what it was like. So my parents said, that's sketchy. We're not doing that. I agreed with them, and then I decided to come to FSU. And that's kind of where my pressure washing stopped. And, you know, we came back every couple weekends or so, but it kind of fizzled out after there. And I'm not mad that it fizzled out because we're on to bigger and better things.
Yeah.
But that's how I ended up in college, and that's the whole story, the wild roller coaster of me actually ending up in college after I never thought I would be here.
So you said something really interesting. Talk to us a little bit more about this consuming content period. You said you learned a lot, and was it how I interpreted that was you were just listening to content and acting upon it and not thinking deeply about it? Like what, or am I missing something there? I'd just love
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts.
It was actually a lot of inaction and a lot of absorbing of content. So I would go to people who I ideally would like to be like. And Dan Pana is a billionaire, right? and I would say, okay, I am listening to this person, right? And he would preach about things that worked for him.
Yeah.
But interpreting that, I never quite seemed to realize at my juvenile age that just because it worked for him does not mean it's going to work for me. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, this is the way to do something. This is how to get this done is to, he says, like, walk 10 hours a day on a treadmill while you work. Don't respond to your loved ones, like cut them off, like, no balance in life, which I don't think there's ever a place for that, but for some people, maybe there is, right? For some people, maybe they need to get into the zone where it's only them and their computer for weeks and months and years, and that's how they're successful. But that's not something that I require to be successful. I like to have a balance. I like to, every weekend go out with my boys, my roommates. I like to do that stuff. I think everyone does, and I think there's a balance for that. I think there has to be light if there's dark. I think there has to be, sunshine if it's raining. I think it's all there has to be a balance, and if there's no balance, then you're gonna burn out.
Right.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
I like
that's
how you
kind of how.
interpreted it as it needed to be your version of that. Maddie, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think the key here is context, right? And I also think that, you're what you said is correct, right? He is sharing what worked for him. And when I say context is if this is a response to a question of how do I become you, and he is a billionaire, he's not wrong. I mean, the fact is most actual billionaires are wildly out of balance, right? Because
Mhm.
billion is a big number, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you really have to be at it to get to that. And I know it's 2023, so like when Mikey and I were your age, billionaire actually was a billionaire, and
Mhm.
so those were like the Forbes 400. It was like 10 people in the world were billionaires. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was crazy number, and you're talking like literally Bill Gates and the Waltons and things like that. So to get to that level, I would say, and Mike and I, we talk about this a lot. I would
Hmm.
say they were just absolutely out of bounds. He was probably everything he said. He probably did. He probably did cut off loved
Yeah.
ones
Yeah, I'm
and didn't
sure.
answer stuff. Because to get to that level, man, you have to be all consuming. What people miss though is that, and again, I'm not. I got to be careful how I cite this, but there was a study where they were basically mapping brains, and when they were mapping the brains of people who were billionaire, CEOs, and Fortune 10 company CEOs, you know what I mean? Um,
Mhm.
and they were the closest brain map that it came to was serial killers. And it wasn't that they were bad, it was that they don't have the ability to discern morality the way we do.
Mhm.
The true, I mean, like that, the psychopath, the sociopath, they just don't know the difference. And so what's interesting is that's why they can go into some plant in Detroit and say, you're all fired because it
Yeah.
was a business decision. And then they'll go to lunch. You know what I mean? Whereas like, bro, if I had to fire somebody, I needed like 4 weeks of Imodium and no eating. You know what I'm saying? Like I was so upset because I would have to let somebody go from a job, even when they deserved it, because I just don't have that personality to just be able to walk in and be like, your life is changing right now, and I'm the one saying so, and I don't care about
Mhm.
it. It's just not me, right? So I think context is important. We kind of have to learn who these people are. um, I think I think what's good and the happy news for all of us is that we don't have to be billionaires to win.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, by the way, like 10 to 15 million dollars, that's better than a sharp stick in the eye. And you know what you can do with 10, you can like actually have a family life and a balance and
Mhm.
have friends and do those things.
Yeah.
So I think that that part's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Any
Yeah.
response there, Hanzo?
So it's actually interesting because that brings me to a concept, which is you have four areas in life of information. It's known knowns, which is the information you know, and you know
Yep.
for sure you know. You have the
Yep.
unknown knowns, you have the
Yep.
known unknowns, and you have the unknown unknowns. And I think a lot of people will just kind of blip over the unknown unknowns, which is something,
Yeah.
you have to realize that there are things that you're never going to consider.
Yeah.
So one of the things when even analyzing something like a serial killer was it's horrible what they did, Undoubtedly, it's horrible. No one's arguing it. We don't know why they did that, and they might not know either.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, understanding and a lot of realizing that sometimes there just is no explanation. And
Yeah.
you
Right.
have to be okay with that sometimes that you'll never get an answer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So my question then to you is, because you decided to go to college, but I mean, if you listen to Gary Vee, a lot of these big names in the influencer space when it comes to entrepreneurship are, I mean, let's just all agree, like college isn't usually their first choice.
Yeah.
However, they don't necessarily say that it's bad, but they say
Mhm.
what you should be focusing on when you're in college is a little bit different. And my curiosity is this, and here's my question. What's your goal out of college? What are you going there for? Are you going there because your parents said so? Or are you going so because you wanted to and you want to get the degree? Are you going there because you see different things you can get out of college than just a degree? What is it? That's my curious.
It's
Like,
a good
what's your
question.
motivation now that you've heard those things from these influencers?
Yeah, so one of the things I've realized as I accumulate knowledge is that everything is in tandem. And what I mean by that is if you know how to be an engineer on a rocket, it will help you with solving a Web3 issue. If
Sure.
you know how to do one thing, it will absolutely help you to solve a problem on another thing and walk through another area in life. And everything is together, right? If you know one aspect of history, you can better predict how the market's going to act tomorrow, right? You can better predict how wars are going to play out. If you interact with more people, you're gathering more information on how people act. You can read people better. You can feel their energy and their vibrations more. Everything helps everything. So you can't really skip anything. If I'm thinking deeply on a calculus problem, I'm rewiring my brain to think more deeply and explore things that are unknown to me because I don't know how to solve the calculus problem, but maybe I can think 4 steps through the problem so that now I understand. And now my brain can get to deducing what the answer is instead of, looking at the study guide and someone telling me. So I think
Hmm.
that's a big thing for me in college, which is the pursuit of information and the pursuit of knowledge, because knowledge helps you answer all of life's questions better, faster, and makes you a better person that helps people around you. So knowledge is a very powerful thing. I think connections, I want to make as many connections as possible.
There we go.
And then I
Yeah.
would say the third is unknown. I don't know what other benefits of college there are, but I'm sure there are a slew of benefits that in 10 years I'll turn around and I'll say, wow, I use that every day now. That changed my life. That
Right.
one day in college changed my
Sure.
life. And it's also independence. It's a great limbo stage of independence. It is perfect. It is
That's a
a
good way of putting
time
it. It's a
where you do
limbo
not,
stage of independence. I
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
you do not get
Training wheels.
punished for not doing anything,
Right.
but it all hits you on the 4th year or the 3rd year
Yeah.
if you do not do anything,
Yeah.
and life starts to catch up, but you still have that year or that 6 months to adjust, and it's not as punishing as the real world, which I think, is very beneficial to a lot of
Right.
people. I
And
think a
then
lot of
so
people.
Absolutely.
I'd
Training
argue
wheels.
a little bit on the knowledge base, the fact that anyone with an internet connection can learn anything now. If you're going to
Yeah,
a school because you idolize a professor or think they speak about a subject in a different way and you're going to the school for that reason, absolutely. But I think I agree with what you say on the knowledge. Do I necessarily think college is the way to learn and grow? I think there are many forms and way.
Yeah.
If you have ambition, you can teach yourself a lot of different things. But the social aspect is just monumental. And Maddie and I would definitely urge you to shake as many hands as possible every day that you wake up.
And I'm going to put a caveat to that. Shake the right hands.
yeah,
Right? Because just joining a fraternity isn't the secret. Join the fraternity. Join the one that has the best connections, the people that have the connections in business, in industry, in tech. Do you know what I'm saying? Who's got the
yeah,
parents where you should, like, that's the research I would be thinking of, because now I'm joining a smaller circle of friends, and that's just like your private school, right? That's getting me past obstacles that other people aren't going to be able to get past, and recognizing that for what it is. And Mike, you took the words right out of my mouth on the knowledge thing. But I think what's important is I think what you were really getting at was neuroplasticity, which is essentially keeping the brain active. But to Mike's point, you can do that with a book. You can do that with other things there to challenge you. but yeah, in terms of a network, I think that one of the things that is wildly underutilized for most youth and universities is if I look back at some of the professors that I had access to, that I could just go to office hours and no one would ever be there because
Right.
I went a couple times,
Yeah.
and I'm sitting there with a person. It's like, whoa, this is the dude that revolutionized, aeroacoustics for all helicopters in the entire world. And like it's flown out to these seminars. He's a big deal. And it's like, this guy's got hookups at all the major companies, and I'm not thinking about that. I'm
Yes.
Mhm.
thinking about how do I solve question 4 in your homework problem
Right.
when I should be thinking about this guy can get me indoors that I would never be able to get into on my own. And that I think is one of the biggest things is like the professors, the deans, the people that really have some influence. Those are the hands you want to make sure you're shaking, not just the guy down the hall in room 402.
Yeah, and we
Oh,
had this conversation, I don't know, a stream or two ago, a similar conversation, and I think Matt is the analogy king. Um, and I don't even think this necessarily was an analogy, but one of the things that we were talking about, he had a very good point, is when you're, especially in your senior year, you are just pelted with a message every day. You better be going to a job fair. You better be going to a job fair to get a job. That like this is what you need to do. And Maddie was like, I should have spent all that time talking to those professors and figuring out what was the right club so I could have a conversation or send an email to somebody that
Yeah.
could get me a job, because that's the way better way to utilize your time. So just some thoughts there, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things with knowledge is I think it's also important to observe how other people interpret knowledge, because if
Mm-hmm.
you have all this knowledge within you but you cannot explicate it onto the people around you and make them understand, then it's useless.
100%, 100%.
Sure.
And that comes into that one of the biggest skills that you will continue to hone throughout your college career, if you actually utilize it correctly, which is this networking is just the vehicle of communication, right?
Mhm.
How to communicate effectively is such a massive tool set that you're going to be able to work at every day, all day long in college. You have no choice if you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. Absolutely. And to your point, I mean, being able to say it and know it and think it, and then being able to communicate it to somebody are two totally different things,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not very many people can orate nowadays properly, and even less people have confidence in speaking.
Hanzo, not many people know what orate means. Forget explicate. You know what I'm saying? Like
You just dropped
the
that. That was
you
very
I
good.
get it. But no, but I mean the truth is I'm with you, man. Like words are powerful, but man, like if you need to sell ideas, you got to simplify it to,
Yeah.
you're talking third grade. Like it's brutal, man. The,
Yeah,
the the
you
latest
better be.
statistic is something, I want to say it's shoot, 53%. I believe it's 53%. I'll Google it while we're talking here, but 53% of this entire country reads at a 7th grade or below reading level.
That's wild.
Wouldn't doubt it.
So
I mean,
just like you got to, you can't use pedantic language, so to speak, and there's irony in that sentence, right? To communicate anymore because no one gets it.
yeah, it's true. Which is kind of funny because you would think that the people at, the top, that the investors, they would want to hear someone that can talk about that. But the reality is what you're saying is you need to be able to explain it to each and every person in the simplest manner possible. And it will only get harder to explain things to people as attention spans decrease and TikTok takes over and these very fast
Hmm.
social media information displays take over.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna
Uh,
I'm gonna take a pessimistic angle on that one, which is, and you will learn this time and time again, the people at the top intentionally keep people dumb because they want their
Of course,
money and
yeah.
their power, right?
yeah.
That's one of the bigger force
Well,
that's playing.
and Mike, you can definitely account because you've been in some big rooms. Um, and Robert Greene wrote 48 Laws of Power,
Yeah.
and I think it actually is the first law of power, like rule one, which is never outshine the master, right?
Yeah.
And the truth is this, like when you get in these rooms, the other reason you want to use simplified language is because if you start using words and the person who's your boss's boss doesn't know what you mean or doesn't know the word mean, they don't have the same vocabulary, you'll make them look bad. And
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
people will find a way to get rid of you in a company simply for that, right?
Yep.
You want to use the simplest, you want to make them look as good as possible. And that's what I'm saying. Like Mikey, you know what I'm talking about. When you get around the real powerful people,
Oh yeah.
let them shine and let them feel like they are awesome because they will pull you with you. You will get all the promotions if they feel like that.
And that's one of the hardest lessons for me. I still struggle with this, is to stay humble even though you're looking someone in the face thinking this dude's this absolute fucking joker.
Well,
Uh
that's the first law on how to win friends and influence people. If you want to gather honey, don't kick over the beehive.
There you go.
exactly,
There
man.
you
I'm
go.
glad you
Dale
read that
Carnegie
book.
knew it.
Dale Carnegie knew what the hell was up.
Mhm.
So
So I
dude,
love it. This is
fantastic
great conversation.
conversation.
I love this
Great,
talk.
great, great conversation.
I do too.
So what I want to go back to though is because I vividly remember I'm in the car talking to you for the first time, and I thought you did such a great job of the storytelling from you starting your pressure washing business with your best buddy, who's now um, your co-founder and Gas
Mhm.
Guzzlers, and you did a great job of going from that business to why Gas Guzzlers. Can you take us through that again? Unless there's anything else that you want to add on to kind of episode 2 and the college before we take that fun little journey from pressure washing to Gas Guzzlers.
No, there's nothing I need to add.
Okay.
So I'll kind of transition here. So
And I'm gonna
what
I'm gonna step away. I've drank like 100 ounces of water today. I'm just gonna go to the bathroom quick, but I've heard part of this, so I'll be back in a couple minutes.
All
All
right.
good, all good. So I would say that what happened is, we entered college and we both knew that we needed to one, make money. That was the biggest issue because neither of us have money coming in. The accounts are going down, right? Bank accounts going down, never a good thing. Parents are calling, asking about money. Are you going to get an on-campus job? Because my parents worked while they were in college, so that's the expectation for me. You need to work, you need to pay a little bit. We're not paying everything for you. It needs to be a transition into adulthood. You need to get a part-time job, start doing more with your time, right?
Yeah.
So my partner Longshot and I see this and we say, okay, how can we make money, right? And pressure washing was always quick money. It was always, we go do one job, we get $200 each. Wow. It's a couple hours, boom. Our hands are wiped clean. We don't have to do anything else, right? So he kind of got into NFTs and it stemmed from, I don't know if you remember, but Tory Lanez actually released 1 million copies of an album as an NFT. I believe it was August 21st of 2021 if I remember the date, because I remember the date specifically. And I remember looking at that and saying, okay, this doesn't make much sense, and kind of blowing it off. And then about 2 weeks into college, Longshot messages me and he says, I think I'm about to make 4 grand on these pictures. And I call him and I say, I think he's joking, right? I
Yeah.
don't understand how that's possible because he sends me a picture of 2 bulls. He's bought just 2 bull pictures. And he says, they've gone from, it was 0.5 ETH to 1 ETH at the time, which was 2 grand each. So he was going to make 4K. And he said, yeah, I'm all in on this project. You need to buy in. And he gave me the whole 9 yards of NFTs, what it was, because he was involved in it. He'd been involved in it for about a week and a half, I think 2 weeks. And I say, that's bullshit. I
Yeah.
say, there's no way you're getting me to buy. I think I put $1,200 into an NFT. I said, eventually, but I said, there's no way you're going to get me to buy a $2,000 NFT. And I didn't even refer to it as an NFT. I referred to it bull picture, is what I said.
Yeah. For
There's
sure.
no way you're getting me to buy that, right? And he goes, okay, but just come with me for the experience. That's what he says. He says, just see what I'm doing and see why I have conviction in it. And I'm never the person to say, write off an idea. I'm always all ears. I want to pay attention to what's going on, especially with, such a special person to me. And I followed suit. And he was a mod in this project at the time, and it was called Bolsium. Now it's named Runcium because they released a game that Runcium. In the end, it was a rug, but it was a very good experience. It got me into NFTs. But he was the person in chat, the moderator that would be in chat all day. If you popped into their chat, he would be there right there. He would say, bam, what's up? Do you have a question? Can I help you? Do you want to buy an NFT? These are the best NFTs to buy right now. He would make sure every single person in that chat was attended to. And he got offered the position of a mod. So he started doing that not as a mod, then quickly was offered the position as a mod. And he started making $1,000 every, I think, month. It was $1,000. And I said, wow, this is great. He's making $1,000. Okay, I need to catch up. That's what I said. And I started doing my own things that was not in Web3, and that was I wanted to engineer a product. I wanted to make a pre-workout that was a disposable vape because I saw that people were hitting, this was the caffeine trend. I don't know if you remember it. It was like there were melatonin vapes, there were caffeine vapes, there were fruity flavored vapes, and they were blowing up, right? And I don't vape myself, but it's a huge trend, and I'm an
Sure.
entrepreneur. I recognize trends. So I thought,
Sure.
well, if we can make pre-workout into, a vaporizer, that will go viral. People are going to buy that
Ooh.
like crazy. And quickly I realized the
Hopefully you got
bio-oral,
some liability insurance. Hope you
yeah.
got that.
But of course, I didn't consider it back then. I was just,
Yeah.
oh, this would be a great product.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So, yeah, so I quickly realized that, things like oral bioavailability were not prevalent, so it was something that was pretty much impossible, and that's why no one's done it. And I went back to Longshot and I said, okay, what are you doing now? And this was about a month later. And that was the weekend I went back and we met in our hometown because we were both at college at this point, and I bought my first NFT. And that's when the NFT journey started. And he was a mod in this project, and I purchased the bulls. They had a little bit of a run. I bought 2 NFTs. I held, and there was about a week to 2 weeks where I didn't really check them a little bit. ETH it took a $400 hit, and I didn't check them, and then the collection itself started to tank, and I just didn't sell them because I thought, well, it's going to go back up, right? So at this point, everything was going back up, right?
Yeah.
And I got active on Twitter, and I just started going into projects and seeing what was up. Like, what are NFTs? What's a whitelist? What's a pre-mint raffle? What are all these little intricate things with the NFT space that's going on, and why is he making $4,000 but I'm losing money, right?
Right.
How can I make this money? Because some of my friends had bought Cool Cats, I think something like that, or no, Gutter Cat Gang, right? And it was just a photo of a cat, and that's all I knew. And they had made $7,000 when those had their run. And I was like, how am I losing, right? I need to win. There's a lot of liquidity in this space. It was all over. Facebook had just shifted their name from Facebook to Meta, right? It was the next big thing. People were talking about the metaverse. It was all over the news. So we both thought, we want to continue with this. And we both understood after pressure washing that we want to do something that's bigger than us. We want to be able to help people. We want to be able to have a business where we employ people. We want to have systems like you mentioned at the start of this call. We want to be a business that benefits people, benefits our employees, and just has a positive impact on the world. And thus we said, okay, let's make a collection. And this was about December of 2021. Yeah, December of 2021. So this is the bull. This is a very high volume time in the market. Everything's pumping. Rogue Society had just minted for, 0.15 at 0.15 at 10,000 units. So there was a lot of liquidity in the market, and there was a lot of money to be made. And I remember, we thought we wanted to do something called crypto stakes, and crypto stakes was going to be like a liquidity pool. And it would be, we used Curve token. I did a lot of research into Ethereum staking and how to get increased APY. And we wanted to use a combo of Curve token, Rocket Pool, and one other service in order to use a conglomerate of the fees from Mint and just basically make an APY and pay it out to our holders, kind of like a DAO almost,
Right.
And we had an investor at this time that approached us that believed in us because pressure washing, and he had heard about us from school, and everyone knew that we were always hustlers. Everyone had always told us, we think you guys will make it. The adults really had conviction within us because we were doing something that was just different.
I just think
And
that's so cool that like a pressure washing business turned into a
Mhm.
grown adult saying like, I believe in you uh to do NFT stuff. Like, that's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it really is the same principle as if you're launching an NFT project. It's you need to have differentiation within whatever value you are showing the world that you have. Whatever action you take, it needs to be something different, and in a positive way different than what your peers are doing or what the perceived person your age or in your position should be doing. And people will be impressed. I think it's realistically it's not that hard to impress people. It just takes action and it takes discipline. And I think within 6 months, a lot of people can impress the people around them and make big changes within their life.
I love it, man. So, continue to take us on the journey, man.
Yeah, so we had this idea for crypto stakes, and we realized, okay, well, there's almost no profit in this for us. We could take a little percent of the APY, but we need to focus on a better idea. So we come up with Gas Guzzlers, and Gas Guzzlers was born in a
But
time
real
where
quick, before you get to gas guzzlers, why did you think your idea was a bad idea? Why did it need to be better?
well, it was not a utility in which it was sustainable for multiple years because APY will go down as Ethereum continues to go off the proof of stake infrastructure, right?
Yep.
So it's always kind of dwindling and dying. So our floor price will start high, but it's always bound to just go down and
Mm-hmm.
down and
Mm-hmm.
down and down. And I'm glad we had the foresight to see that and understand that we weren't going to release a project just to make a quick buck
Yeah.
and just leave it out to dry and just okay, we've staked, we've done what we're supposed to. We'll give you guys the APY when we can and we're taking, the 20-30% off the top, which is what a lot of creators did and a lot of founders did. And I'm very glad we did not do that, as I think that's the most honorable decision.
Yep. Awesome. No, I'm glad. I just uh thought it would be good for you to explain that insight. So, all right, you realize that wasn't maybe the best idea, and now we're on to gas guzzlers. Hit us.
Yeah, so Gas Guzzlers was born in a time where there was gas wars everywhere. It was right after the Yuga Labs mint when it was like an other deed was 2 ETH for a gas fee, right?
Yeah.
Crazy, crazy gas fees. And we said, well, why don't we do this? Why don't we create a project in which we refund people their gas fees? Why would we not do that? And we can take all the mint proceeds and put it into partial mint proceeds into a revenue source and partial mint proceeds into development infrastructure and gas back infrastructure, and gas back being the actual ETH back that gives you your GUI back on a transaction. Because the idea was we want the NFT market and we want people to be able to buy freely and we want to remove a burden of the market, which is paying exorbitant gas fees.
Uh-huh.
So let's release something that, can either make gas fees minimized, can help people avoid gas fees, or just stop paying them altogether. And that's where this idea came in.
Yeah.
And we all were like, that is it. As long as, we can get a revenue source behind us, as long as we can get all the infrastructure built out properly, this is a project that will last for years and years because we're basically just paying dividends to our holders. And the gas back is just kind of the original idea of where it started. And we quickly realized, well, we're only going to have so many mint funds, right? So why don't we introduce new utilities and have the gas be the cherry on top until we get to a place where we have enough money to where we really have a surplus of Ethereum and we can start giving out gas like crazy and letting our holders buy like crazy. And then we can do burns and stuff like that, which is all in the future for Gas Guzzlers, which we have planned. But that was our main idea was let's remove a burden off the marketplace because the number one thing when starting a business is what's your value prop? What are you solving? What are you fixing for people? Why are people going to buy your product? And that's exactly what we said. We're going to stop people from having the burden of paying gas fees. And especially with free mints, when free mints weren't so free, when it was a free mint, but you paid $140 in gas fees or $80 in gas fees. We just wanted people to mint freely and we wanted people to not be fudding and worried about whether they'd be able to afford a mint. We wanted people to say, I have this whitelist, I can buy this mint, I don't have to worry about the gas wars, right?
Yeah.
And that was really what we wanted. We wanted to remove a burden. We wanted to better the NFT space. And
Okay.
that's where the idea was born from.
Yeah. So great value prop, good idea. You run into the small little issue of you only have revenue coming in from mint, and then that stops, especially in a market like this where it's bad and you just secondary sales is no longer a business model. So take us through the idea of let's just go through the whole process. You have this idea, interesting idea. Now you're doing it. What does that look like to build the project? And then how do you continue to fund it? And how are you still around today?
Yeah, so the first step after having the idea is putting it all on a piece of paper and saying, hey, let's go to our investor. Let's pitch this, because we had just pitched the crypto stakes idea and he had said, guys, this is not going to work. I don't believe in this. I don't have conviction. And we said, okay, this is what we want to do. And he said, I think this is golden. This is something I would invest in. This is something I know that people in the NFT space will invest in. And it's a long-term play. Because our goal, at which we elaborated to him over and over, and he agrees with, is that we want to be here for 5 years. We don't want to be the in and outs. We want to be the people that are going to be here when it's blowing up again. And then we want to be the people that are still here when it's dying again. And when it goes through all the waves, we want to be here forever. We want to create a brand. We want to create a business. This is not a one-time mint. So from there, we said, let's make the name, because we had the utility at this point, but it wasn't called Gas Guzzlers. And we said, well, why don't we make it Gas Guzzlers? Because we want to guzzle our holders' gas. We want, to absorb that cost for them. And we said, let's personify gas. Because Gwei has been paid by every single person who's ever bought an NFT, but no one's made art resembling gas. So we made the idea to make Gas Guzzlers, and we made gas pumps, and we reached out to our artist, Ed Dinzel, and, he worked with us. We created the image. And we also understood we wanted to be different. So we created this non-PFP version of art with all these different trait zones. And, it was really something that was special. It was something that was cool that no one had ever seen before. We wanted to make sure there was a lot of quality in the art. It's a 4K by 4K collection. Every single trait is hand-drawn. We have 31 one-of-ones, and then we have 50 Gwalians. And then we have all these different tiers. We have 6 different rarity tiers.
Gwalians. I love that.
Yeah, they're really cool, the Gwalians.
All right, so you get through you're starting to conceptualize the artwork. Take us through building the Discord marketing community. What does all that look like?
Yeah, so at the start, we really were in the dark, right? And we didn't get we understood the idea of taking a step before the next, right? We started sending out DMs and DMs and DMs, and this is like, I think I had 70 followers, maybe 120 followers on Twitter. I had a very small following, and I just could not get a response from anyone, neither could my co-founder. So we said, okay, we obviously need a collab manager. We knew what collab managers were, because we just need to figure out what's going on, right? We need to figure out how to get advisors. We need to figure out how to get devs. We need to figure out all these different things that we didn't even know of at this point. So we just take the first step and we start DMing people. And, we land our first advisor. We sign him. Long story short, he's not the best advisor. He's kind of skimpy on helping us. But thus, is Web3 at that time. You get burned from talking to people that are anonymous when you send them upfront payments, and you're not clear on, they're your employee, or you're not strict on what needs to go on. So we really faced, wasting ETH, and that was a huge deal because our investor, this was our first choice of investing ETH, right? So we just started, and we kind of got burned on our advisor / collab manager. So what happened from there is we said, okay, we need to do this all ourselves for the start. And once we have everything outlined and all our plans set in stone, then we reach out to the collab managers. We have a concrete list of what we want from them because we made everything else, right? So what we do is we DM every single person we could think of on Web3. I'm talking about 3,000-4,000 DMs. Same thing as pressure washing, handing out the flyers. Same thing, going back to our roots, handing out Christmas flyers so people put their lights up. The exact same thing. It's just a little easier because I just copy and paste the message, right? And what happens is we get replies, people start talking to us, we just are exposed to the industry more. We're exposed to what's going on a lot more. And we end up deciding that we need to make a marketing campaign. We need to make we need to get collabs scheduled. We need to get pre-mints. We need to get all these different things. And we start to develop our marketing campaign and we start to approach what we think is the ideal version of our whitelist system. And this is where the difference was born. And what I mean by difference is us trying to be a non-regular NFT project.
Mhm.
I'm going to grab a drink here one sec.
Yep.
So we created what's called, instead of a whitelist, we created a blacklist. And this idea, no one was doing it at the time, but when we did release it, a couple other projects were doing it. And what it was is you would apply to be in our project. You would apply for whitelist, right? And it was our whole big idea that during our marketing campaign, we would have blacklist, and we did end up going through with the blacklist. And it would be, you have 4 forms to complete, right? And you would apply on one of the forms and you would get whitelist. And then if you applied for all 4 forms, you would get early access. And the way it worked is we wanted you to show that you're a holder in the space. We wanted to show you're a builder in the space, or that you bring value to the space. Because we did not want the people that were flippers. We knew we did not want the people that were flippers because that would cause our floor to tank off mint. And we go from there and we say, okay, we're going to release our blacklist in 4 weeks. And that was our goal. And then we tackled the challenge of, well, how do we get people wanting our blacklist? How do we want the marketing campaign to go? And we saw all these different projects start on Twitter, and they started very dry on Twitter. They just put out a tweet. It was their first tweet, and maybe it got 100 likes if it was really good project and people loved it. But we were thinking, well, we need to come out as a project that's getting 2,000 likes on their first post so that the market perceives us as someone who, is like, why do I not know about this person? And all these people are hyped about this mint. And basically what we did is we created an exclusive Discord that had 2,500 members, and we invited all of the top alphas, all of the top communities into our Discord. And it was a secret private Discord. We invited Dark Echelon, Zooverse, Doodles, Azuki, anyone you could think of that's a big name or a small name, we invited. And we would give out FCFS spots, first come, first serve spots. And what would happen is only the most active members naturally would join our Discord. So we had a very, very active Discord for, I would say, a week. And it was a stealth Discord. So it was, a value prop to alphas where no one knew about this. All the alphas got whitelist. And people loved it, right? People wanted to join the Discord. They were interested in the art. We dropped some sneak peeks in there. And people were really rumbling about what Gas Guzzlers is. And then, it comes to the day where we're launching our first tweet, and it's that thing, we're just praying, okay, I hope these people have conviction. I hope we played our cards right. And luckily enough, we tweet and we link a bunch of pre-mints to the tweet, and we announce it in our Discord. We run giveaways to it, and the first tweet gets about, I think, 3,000 likes in 24 hours. And it was all natural engagement. We even had ops manager. I forgot his name, but I think it starts with a V. But we had him check all our engagement and make sure it was natural, because we really wanted to see how many people were actually interested in the project versus if it's a ton of bots, that's not very useful to us. And we wanted to make sure it wasn't a ton of bots. So we ran the tweet. He confirmed that a lot of, if 90+% of the engagement was natural, and we were buzzing. So from there, it was relatively easy because, we kept building the hype. We just kept collabing. It was kind of the same rinse and repeat formula of figuring out what the next step is and eventually minting. And it definitely wasn't as easy as that. There were a lot of road bumps on the road, like Discord security events. It was a very hectic time pre-mint because, there's 40,000 people in your server. I think 35,000 on day of mint people were in our server. So there were a lot of people trying to mint our project, and a lot of people, the weeks leading up to the mint that were pushing us for information, were,
Yeah.
showing that they had high conviction, were showing they had high FUD, the whole spectrum of emotions.
Right.
So it
So
was
real
definitely
quick, take us through a little more detailed learning lessons, some bumps and bruises, almost for insight of future people that are trying to build a project, or just awareness of what you as a co-founder are up against.
Yeah, so firstly, I would say devs. Make sure your devs are good, solid devs. If you need devs, go to my developers at Oxytocin. They are good devs. They will give you a good price. It's not super cheap, but it's definitely not overpriced. But they are solid developers. And the reason I say that is because I have seen too many founders get to their third month and get to their mint day, and then their contract fails. And it's not even their fault. And they've paid the ETH, they've invested all this time, they've invested all this money, and the mistake that, the developer doesn't bear the mistake, the founder bears the mistake and the weight of that, you know, failed contract, which is a horrible thing.
Yeah.
And then from there, I would say develop your idea, pitch it to as many people as possible, but take what, the average non-founder has to say with a grain of salt. Because I remember, when we were talking about doing the Discord in the alpha groups and getting them into our private Discord before Twitter launches, almost everyone told us it was not going to work and that we were going to burn all our bridges before we even started. They said, you're going to go to these alpha groups, they're going to say no, and then you're going to go back in 2 months when you have some hype, and they're going to say no again because you already applied, and then you're screwed. That's what everyone told us.
Yeah.
But we took it from the perspective of, well, they're alpha groups. Would they not want to have guaranteed whitelists and be in our server before anyone else and know things that no one else knows, right? And be exposed to not secret information, but just new information.
Right.
Because that's what they love. So I would say a lot of founders probably get stuff wrong by listening too much to other people. You just need to take in what other people are saying and realizing, okay, this person's not a founder, or maybe they are a founder. This person hasn't worked on projects. Maybe they have worked on projects, and take everyone's information and then write it down, put it on a paper, and come back to it after you make your own observations. Because if you let other people form your observations, it's probably not going to be a very good one, because everyone's coming from a biased perspective, right? And as a founder, you need to be able to encapsulate what the whole market wants, or the majority of the market wants. If you want your mint successful.
Little synergies with you consuming the social media advice there earlier on.
Yeah.
So that's good to hear. So yeah, I love those too. Any other tidbits you want to drop, or you feel good with those?
I would say you're bound to hire the wrong people.
Yeah.
Like, that's just going to happen.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going to hire the wrong people. And the way I would avoid that is, the best way to do that is 50% upfront, 50% back end, or if you can, 100% back end. Because there are people that will just be, complete slackers, because you're not anonymous. It's not like a normal job where you have to go in and report face to face. You can ask for pay online. A lot of times you don't have to communicate with your boss all day. You're not held to the same degree of responsibility and accountability as you would in a normal IRL quote unquote job.
And you mean back end as in payment for them to do their job?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Upfront payments is something that new founders will quickly find, that a lot of people will do less work if you give them completely upfront payments.
Absolutely. And then you said one more last thing I'd like to cover. Your insights on, you said, Discord security. Any insights there?
I would hire the right person for Discord security. Again, I would not skimp out on that, because just like the minting contract, if you have 20,000 people in your server and you skimp out on Discord security, and it turns out that, 2 weeks before your mint, or 2 days before your mint, even worse, that someone has found an exploit and has just been waiting and lurking in the shadows, and you thought everything was okay and everything was fine and dandy, they will exploit your community, and you are technically liable for all those losses.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it, man. Great words of advice. Again, coming from a very, very well put together mind, man. I appreciate this. So take us through Mint because, I'm looking at the activity on OpenSea. It looks like you do get some hype, but listen, we're in a bear and your floor price obviously is
Yeah.
down like every other floor price out there. So take us through that journey and talk to us about just how freaking hard it is.
Yeah, so mint day was very hectic. I'll walk you through the entire day.
Yeah.
So I wake up and it is about 6 a.m. and we mint at I think 12. I think we minted at 1 p.m. or like 12 p.m., something like that. And I think it was 1 p.m. And what happened is I wake up, we have all our announcements ready for the day. We want to announce 3 new things. So what we did is we announced what did we announce? Well, at that time we had VCs looking into funding us, so we announced that we were in talks with VCs. We announced that we had our custom Gwalian billboards, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So what happened is you would mint a Gas Guzzlers NFT and you paid 9 Gwei on the actual transaction. What would happen is that 9 Gwei would be reflected on the billboard in the back of the NFT, and every single billboard would be custom to the actual mint that you paid during, so people were setting custom Gwei, like people would set 69 Gwei, so they had a custom billboard in the back and stuff like that. But
Fantastic.
that day was very, very hectic. There was, like I said, about 30,000, 35,000 online active people in our server. And a lot of people don't realize things like people, if they don't get to mint, they will FUD. And just because they didn't get the chance to mint, they will FUD. And what happened that day is a rumor started to spread that we were a rug because our artist worked with Rogue Society to make their art, right? And we didn't think we had to address this because, he's just the artist. He's not responsible for the roadmap. All he does is provide the art assets, and once he does that, he's fine. And word started to spread that Ed was involved within this ring, and every single project that he's ever worked on is a rug, the whole 9 yards. So we ended up minting about 3,800 within like 10 minutes, and it was super fast, right? And then all of a sudden things started slowing down, and we see on Twitter, people say Gas Guzzlers has shut down general chat, right? Rug at Ed Dinzel, rug.
Oh, bro, the Twitter sphere
Yeah.
got ya.
But the thing is, they're not seeing from the perspective of, okay, well, we only have 3,000 people maybe that can mint, and there's 30,000 people trying to mint, right? So we know that there's at least going to be a couple thousand people that are not going to get the chance to mint and are going to come into chat just so they can FUD other people's bags and then buy at a lower cost.
Right.
We know that's going to happen, but other people don't think that's going to happen, right? So we analyze that, and then immediately, as soon as the floor on OpenSea goes to 0.05, which is, right under mint price, which was 0.0555, mints completely stop and people just start freaking out, right? Mint's low, like don't mint anymore, buy off OpenSea, right? And people start freaking out. There's some people calling close the contract, open the contract, all the great stuff that comes with mint day, right?
Yeah.
So we say whatever, we're leaving the contract open, whoever mints. This is a long-term project. The floor could go to 0.00000 today, and we're still going to work for the next 8 months on making this a desirable project. We don't care, right? And we took that stance. We were like, whatever. We want this to be alive in 5 years. I'm not worried about the floor price today. We already have the funds, right? We already have the plans. We have the funds. We have conviction in ourselves. So we have 3,800 that end up being minted with there was 100, so like 3,700, because I think 100 went to the wallet, the Vault wallet, that were minted for free. And it was a great day. I called my parents. I told them, hey, I don't owe all these people their back ends, and I don't have to come up with all this money, because the reality is if we didn't mint out or we didn't get enough money, we were screwed. If we had only minted 800 units, then, we would have personally had to pay our developers. We would have personally had to pay our artists, all this good stuff. So it was a huge risk for us. It was a huge liability risk.
And so
And
you minted out. Your collection was 30 whatever 100? It was
no,
30.
it was 5,500. It was, I think it was, yeah, 5,500, but we cut it at 3,800 and 3,600 were minted.
Okay, cool. And
But we had understood that as long as we get over about 1,200, we were completely fine, and we were completely confident in minting 1,200
yeah,
because the market had a lot of conviction within us.
Yeah.
So we knew we were going to mint 1,200.
yeah. And looking back at this, well, finish out the day. Is there anything else you want to finish out the day there?
Yeah, that was probably the biggest crash of my life because I would say 8 months of work had been put up to that moment, and the weeks leading up to mint, all you're thinking about is mint. You're not
Yeah.
thinking about the days after mint. And what we really expected is we expected a complete sellout. And I remember talking to Longshot on the day of the mint when we had minted 3,600, because at that point we were like, okay, we have to sell out, right? Because it'd been 10 minutes. We just minted 3,600. These things are flying off the shelf. People barely can buy these things. And we're on the call with Longshot, and our developers are like, wow, how did you guys pull this off? This is the most amount of mints we've ever seen in this period of time. And I talk to Longshot and I go, the job is not done. We are just getting started. I hope you know that. And 20 minutes later goes by, no more mints, right? 30 minutes, no more mints. And we're trying to figure out what's going on, and we're panicking, and we're not freaking out, but we're just trying to analyze and deduce why things aren't going the way we anticipated, especially with it was just going so well. And it just kind of was a very quick seesaw back to the other side of reality.
Right.
And we sit there and we say, okay, we have the funds. Thank God we have the funds before these people tried to call us a rug, before all the big debacle happened. And our floor is sitting at, 0.04. So we're saying, okay, we're fine. Like, let's just take a rest, because at this point we had barely slept in at least 4 days. I probably got 7 hours of sleep. I just completely missed a test in school, like completely got a 0 on it. And that was like, I was like, damn, I have like a 30 in this class now. I'm going to fail this class. Luckily I recovered it, but there was a lot going on. So we said, okay, we closed the mint. Let's just sleep for a couple hours and decide what is going to happen when we can wake up and we're refreshed and we're not super tired and super stressed and super emotional. So we do that.
Good decision.
And that is the best decision we made. So that's kind of where the day ended, and I'm very, very happy that took place.
Yeah. So that day in particular, last question, and then we'll kind of move forward about we like to get an elevator pitch and kind of the future. Last kind of thought on my mind here is the whole FUD in the Twitter. Is there anything that you could have done different, or it was shit luck and it is what it is?
I never believe that anything is completely out of your control. So I would say, yeah, there's definitely things we can do. Have I considered them and stewed over them? No. Would I, if I was advising someone else on their mint day? Absolutely, I would. I would think through everything.
Yeah.
I would think of how to stop people, giving them incentives from, listing off OpenSea, right? How do we do it so that, people don't insta-list low? Because some people will insta-list low.
Yeah.
And then for some, I don't know why, but I don't know why, honestly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, whale accounts will literally buy NFTs in bulk and just instantly list them for lower for some reason.
Yeah, the only feasible answer I have to that is when it's tax season, you're trying to take losses on purpose. But other than that, I don't know.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
That is actually a tactic for investors. But that's only one that I've ever heard that actually makes sense. So, yeah. So what you're really getting at is being outside of it and being looking in as maybe an advisor. You'd be able to see all those things, but when you're in it, it's pretty hard to predict all of the outcomes. And you unfortunately had a shit outcome, because it sounds like if that FUD didn't happen and that message didn't start growing, you probably would have sold all of the mints pretty relatively quickly.
Yeah, but I mean, you never know. Like, you never know what would have happened. So I'm not mad that anything happened. I'm glad that everything happened the way it does because it just adds to the story.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, if we become a project that's worth 2, 3 ETH in the future, which undoubtedly I have conviction that we will, with how I'm working and how Longshot's working, just adds to the story.
Yeah.
Everyone doubted us. Everyone called us a rug. Everyone said that, it was impossible that we would do this, that we would give gas back vouchers, and we still did it.
Yeah. I love it, man. That's awesome.
Mhm.
So let's do this to kind of like move to the future. What we have not got yet, which I'd love to hear from your point of view, is
Yeah.
give us a 2 to 3 minute max elevator pitch. You're on the elevator with your next investor. That's all you got. You're going to the 10th floor. Concisely tell us what Gas Guzzlers is and why I should go pick one up on OpenSea today.
So Gas Guzzlers is a project that's focused on the 3 to 5 year fixation within Web3 rather than most generic Web3 projects, which are focused on the 3 to 5 month. And it's not something that's subject to, huge shifts in market. Our utility will always be prevalent. People will always want gas back. They will always want ETH airdrop to them, right? And that's our biggest utility right now. We have a staking where you earn pump, and you can use that pump in exchange on the marketplace for trait rerolls, which makes art dynamic. So you can change any of your art, which is not normally found in an NFT collection. You can use it for gas back vouchers, which is actually getting your ETH back on, a transaction that has occurred. And then you also have whitelist spots, which you can purchase. We also have options which include accessing our alpha callers. We have Gray Stash and Breezy. Gray Stash is an alpha caller from Funkari. Breezy has done a lot of work. We just had Resang, but she left for Underground, which is one of the best alphas in the space, if not the best alpha in the space. So we have a very good way to make money with our project, whether it be alpha calling, whether it be whitelist spots, whether it be gas back. Now, on top of that, we're introducing a node very soon, and we're also introducing a bot very soon. Our bot will be our first revenue source, and our node will be accessible to all the community and will be used to engagement farm from other communities and other people. Because a node is an ease of life thing. It's something that we gas guzzlers can provide for people and have them come to our space by saying we're going to give a week free node out. It's available to our whole community, and it's available on Polygon and ETH. Not a lot of people have Polygon nodes. We do have a Polygon node. We also have a bot that's coming out that I wish I could say more about, but its purpose is the market does not sleep and neither do your bags. So it is meant to secure gains and stop losses. That is as much as I can say, but it is a very cool bot. It is meant to make you more secure in all of your NFT investments. No other bot exists like it on the market. No one from Tiny Astros, Alpha Sharks, anyone like that has a bot like this that's a trading bot. That is what we are coming out with. So it's something unique, just like the project. So I think Gas Guzzlers is a great investment. And I would say, even if you want to wait 2, 3 months, wait 2, 3 months, see what we release, because we're continuing to release things. We're continuing to partner with, people every single week, every single month. And we're really just pushing the pedal of the market.
I love it, man. That is a very good answer, thorough answer. And I think it still was under 3 minutes. So, kind of Matt, any follow-up questions? I talk about the future. Anything to add, brother?
No, man. I really like the pitch. I would challenge you. I'm curious if I were to, just for grins, is just a challenge. If I said, could you do that pitch in 60 seconds? Would you? Do you have a 60-second version?
I don't even have a 3 minute version, to be honest, but I can try. It's all off the dome.
I only ask honestly, selfishly, because that really makes it nice on social media when you get that 60-second. Just saying, just
Yeah.
It's
throwing it
true,
out
yeah.
there.
Let me try. So Gas Guzzlers is a unique project that's focused on being different than the rest of the NFT market, and we're focused on a 3 to 5 year time horizon rather than the normal NFT project. We have dividends in the form of gas back vouchers to our holders, which are in a weekly restock every week. We have whitelist spots, we have alpha callers, as well as a node releasing and a trading bot releasing soon. We are always continuing to push the envelope of the NFT space. We are always continuing to interact with our community, our mods, everyone within the actual Gas Guzzler ecosystem. And that's why all of our community has strong conviction within us. So Guzz on with us.
Boom! And he nails it under
Love
60
it.
seconds.
That's what I'm talking about.
Fantastic.
Unstoppable.
There you
Elevator
go.
pitch.
See, listen to that neuroplasticity. That's why you do calculus problems.
Hell
Yes, sir.
yeah, dog. You nailed that. That was fantastic. And now, for you can take more time, give us the next 6 to 12 months for the Gas Guzzlers and where you're going and what does it look like? What can we expect? I know you touched on a couple things, but
Yeah.
anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so you can expect more gas vouchers. You can expect a more inclusive marketplace if you are already a holder. If you're not a holder, you can expect ways to earn gas vouchers if you are not a holder by engaging within the ecosystem to make it even more inclusive to people, because we realize, as gas guzzlers increase in floor price, that people are going to be less likely to actually buy them for the gas vouchers. We want people to be able to engage with the project for the gas vouchers. And we're going to start to be shifting away from the main utility, which, as I keep saying, is the gas vouchers, to things like bots, nodes, other ways to make money, ways to ensure that your TXNs don't fail, stuff like that, and ways to arbitrage across platforms, different things like that, which are, can be applied to a broader amount of NFTs rather than being limited by the actual, pool of money we have and liquidity, which is what the gas vouchers relies on.
Dude, I love it, man. That was another good explanation about what the future. Maddie, any thoughts there, buddy? Before we believe it or not, man, congratulations. We're almost at 2 hours we've been talking. How long has it felt for you?
30 minutes. I could talk about Web3 all day.
Dude,
Right?
you crushed it, man. We took you on a journey through 2 hours, and we're definitely getting towards the end. Maddie, any other thoughts before we did lie? Hanzo, we have 2 more questions. They're softballs, but we're gonna ask them anyways.
Let's ask them.
All right, so 2 questions that we like to ask towards the end. Number 1, do you have any questions for us, my fine man? Because we just peppered you with questions for 2 hours, and we like to give that courtesy to our guests. If you don't have any, it is totally okay.
I do not, but I'm interested to hear your guys' story too at one point. Do you guys have any interviews I could watch?
Well, we do not have any interviews. We're going to start doing, we're getting invited on a lot more podcasts, but you ever want to do a Discord AMA and Gas Guzzlers, we'll show up. Or if you have a Twitter space, we'll show up.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it.
All right, awesome. And then 2, we love to give feedback. You've been, I'm sure, in a bajillion Twitter spaces. You've been in a lot of speaking engagements within the space. How do you think tonight on the Midlife Crisis Show went compared to what you typically see in the space?
I think you guys make hosting it very, very easy. If I'd host like you for my spaces, I feel like they do go well, and my community agrees that, we can prevent ourselves as professionals via Twitter space and the way we speak. You guys make it very easy. It's almost as smooth as butter to talk to you guys. When I start running out of ideas, you guys pick it right back up. There's no weird stutters, no weird pauses, so you guys make it really easy.
Thanks, man. We appreciate the
Thank you.
feedback. That is what we aspire to be. We want you to feel that way, and I'm glad you felt that sentiment, because this is what we love to do, man, and we love to meet new people. No matter where you come from, what age you are, what your background is, we know that meeting people and having conversations like this makes all of us better. And we think it's critically important in a space where doxing is still somewhat passable, which is still mind-blowing to me when you're saying, I'm going to try to take $4 million of your money and I'm not going to tell you who I am. It's pretty mind-blowing. But with that, man, Maddie and I like to do a little closing comments. So I'm going to let Maddie go, and then I'll follow it up, and we'll shut it down for the night, man.
Yeah, man. So this has been a great opportunity to chat with you, and I think one of the coolest things is, you know, we talked about having different perspectives, and we've talked to a lot of people who, don't get me wrong, the space is young, right? Web3 is already a younger crowd, but even within that, you're on the younger side of it, right?
Mhm.
And it's great for Mikey and I because you talk about the importance of keeping um, flexibility in the brain, right?
Mhm.
And keeping the all those neurons moving. And so for us, I mean, Mike and I, we're in our 40s, and you know, a lot of people our age are fairly set in what's going on. So getting doses like this is so critical because it helps me understand here's what people are thinking about, here's what's going on, and it's very easy for people our generation to look at people in your generation and quite frankly be a little bit disappointed. I hate to say it
Yeah.
that way, but
He went there.
Right.
He said it.
there's
He said it.
I wouldn't even sorry to
but the
say it.
truth is, Mike said it right. I mean, it's like a participation trophy generation, and what we're seeing is we're seeing those people enter the workforce, and it's tough, man. It's tough to find people that understand work ethic, that want to learn, that want to grow, that want to build things, that want to win. And what I liked about your conversation and going into your background is your parents instilled very good values in you, but still let you be you. And what you took from that is, listen, I like how you said it. You are comparing yourself to your potential, and it looks like that's what you're still doing, and it's something that is a breath of fresh air. I hope you keep doing that and keep that that drive there, because dude, at 19, this is wild, man. I mean, you're at FSU, you're crushing it. You're recognizing what you can use the university for, and you're extracting the most out of what you can get. And here's the thing, you're doing the same thing in Web3, and you're so ahead of the curve. It's gonna be wild, man. It's gonna be wild. We're gonna be old fogies, man, and talking to you when you're our age is gonna be nuts because you talk about Elon Musk and people like that, but this is how a lot of them started. And so it's just staying the course. And I think you're off to an amazing start. So it's been great talking with you.
Yeah, I appreciate talking with you guys too. Not a lot of people that I talk to on a daily basis understand what I'm saying. They look at me like I have 7 eyes in my head, "What are you talking about? Why are you thinking about that stuff?" So it's a breath of
Yeah.
fresh air too.
Yeah, I will mirror everything Maddie said. A couple things I'll add is I'll just reiterate, man, that what Maddie's just said there at the end. Your mindset for where you are at in life is amazing. I was at Penn State thinking about, can I get to double digit beers on a Thursday night? I took that path, and I'll tell you what, uh, you know, it's fun, but then when you look back, you do get a little bitter sometimes when you think like, man, I could have taken advantage of like the stuff with it we told you. So I commend you for that, and I'm thoroughly impressed. Two, like I said in the beginning, before we even came on, we just built a friendship online. I think it's a magical thing that we do right here, and I cannot wait to continue to win, grow, build together. Midlife's going nowhere. We're continuing to build as I think one of the more interesting media companies in the space. And then three, I love your conviction, man. Like you are, I can tell you're amped. I can tell you're convinced that you're doing the right thing for the right reasons. Don't lose that passion and that fire, because that's going to take you far. And then when you do take a misstep and you learn something, take it for what it's worth, but keep that fire going. And if you do that, man, you're going to go, like Maddie said, crazy places, because you're just starting, man. You are just starting, and it's magical to hear you speak, and it's going to be magical to see where you go, and we want to be there with you and grow together, brother.
I
Yep.
appreciate it very much. If I'm ever in Tampa, we should grab a coffee.
I'm
I'm
in.
always there. I got relatives up there, so I know the city very well.
Hit
Well,
me up, man.
you're gonna be
Hit me
hanging
up.
out with Maddie. They got great craft beer. If I ever get there, I'll be drinking a craft beer. I don't drink them like I used to, but I still like a good craft beer from time to time. But with
And
that
that works
being
because
said,
I like
people,
coffee.
what did you say, Maddie?
I said that works because I like coffee.
Well, with that being said, Midlife Crisis on this fine Valentine's Day is calling it a wrap. We are not streaming Thursday night. I am going back east to visit my family that I haven't seen in feels like a bajillion years. Maddie is moving, but you're damn straight we're going to have a Twitter space, noon PST, 3 p.m. EST. Second Twitter space ever, Crisis Averted, episode 2. We're going to talk all things life and Web3. We're going to have a blast. And Thursday night, we'll be hanging out with our close fam in Discord. Come, vibe, ask us questions, play some games. We're going to hang out and have a good time. We freaking love you all. We had a blast tonight. Thanks, Hanzo, for the time. We will see you in the Twitter space on Thursday, Midlife Crisis.